Welcome to Acker Basketball, a father-son podcast about ASUN men's hoops. I'm Curtis D. Acker.
And I'm Mark Acker.
And thank you for joining us. We are going to do something a little new today. We're going to have our podcast be predominantly highlights, full screens, bringing you a lot of the action, a lot of stuff that we weren't able to bring you last year as well, bringing you some new stuff this year. This is kind of that new stuff that we were talking about at the beginning of the year. So we're going to get right into it, Dad, with the Austin P. Governors hosting the EKU Colonels. This one went into overtime. Starting us off in Clarksville, though, to K.O. Carpenter with the three. The Govs would stay hot from deep, but this Turner Buttrey three on the 9-0 EKU run would keep the Colonels from falling too far behind. Buttrey saw a season-high 16 tonight. Catching up, though, Maroon and White would need a lot more than that effort to get past Hanto Emmanuel. They would find it in the second. Tate Blanton to Tyler Andrews for his only three of the night. Governor's still up 8, though. They couldn't stop Tate McCubbin. He had a record-breaking 8 threes tonight. That's a new freshman record for Austin P. Just 2 minutes later, Jackson Holt ties the game up for the Colonels. They haven't led, but they tie it with 6.5 to go there. A chance to win it at the very end of regulation. Emmanuel, 5 blocks tonight, gets the final one there at the buzzer. And we've got OT. McCubbin hits a record-breaking 3 there. APU wins this one 97-90. So, I mean, that one was an entertaining game, Dad. I don't know if you I watched it. It was a very fun overtime game. EKU did a very good job of, even though they were down for the large majority of the game, they never let Austin P secure too far ahead of a lead to the point where they weren't. I thought they were going to end up pulling it in overtime. The Tate McCubbin taking over, obviously a new rookie record as well. I believe it was 38 points was what he had.
That's what he had, 38. Yeah, he was just feeling it. I mean, you could just see it on his. Every time he touched the ball, he was going. He knew what to do. He did it well, and yeah, it was impressive. He won the game, obviously.
Yes, he did. He performed outstanding. He's been playing really well as of late too. Him and Takeo Carpenter, both have really stepped up for Austin P in kind of this injury-ridden part of the season that they've had. They've been two lights at the end of the tunnel for a team that's been struggling compared to what we expected them to be coming into the season. So, getting healthy there, getting those depth guys some minutes that you wouldn't expect them to, it's really going to bode well, I think, for this team come playoff time or conference tournament time.
That's right. Totally agree. I mean, they got to tie it all in, but yes, do they have the talent? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll touch on them a little bit later, actually. All right, I'm going to it.
Yeah, let's get a look first, though, at everything else through a Thursday night lens. So the Queens Royals still remain undefeated after pummeling a victory over Stetson, 95-60. We talked about their balanced scoring last week. This was a weird one, though. 3 bench players scoring 10 or more points. However, looking ahead to Saturday, things would get much tougher for Queens playing a team for themselves. Dad, how about you?
Yeah, meanwhile, Jacksonville, the Dolphins knocked down North Alabama 64-60 in a street ball. I call it a street ball type of game. Jacksonville really dictated play in this one, frustrated the Lions continuously. Lions are very good at holding the ball and possessing the ball. 13 turnovers, 35% from the floor for the Lions. So Jacksonville took them out of their offensive game. One of the things they really did well was they attacked Jakari Lane as he came across the line with a double team, and it took the Lions out of their flow big time, again, leading to those stats I was talking about. And then in the second half, Robert McRae just took over. He scored 19 in the end. Zemi and Stephon Payne both had double-doubles to contribute for Jacksonville, and that led them to the victory in the end. So really good performance from Jacksonville. And again, I got a little more about them in a little bit.
Nice, yeah. Covering deeply on teams today. We'd like to see it. All right, let's get into our next game. So we're going to move on to Saturday now because that overtime game was really the cream of the crop for Thursday, and Thursday happened a little while ago. So we'll bring you the more recent games, the Saturday games. Let's go next with Queens and Florida Gulf Coast. And this one might not have gone as you expect. Leading blocker in the nation means probably good interior defense, right? Not when Keshawn Kellerman says, hello, welcome to Fort Myers on Malcolm Wilson. Queens stuck with FGCU early as Chris Ashby finds the net there. He had a team-high 14, but Kellerman wasn't done. The alley-oop pass from Jevin Muniz ends up getting that to go. Eagles held the lead the rest of the way, and it got bigger. Muniz on a fast break. 1-0. He gets the end. One here, check this out. Tough bucket there. Leo Colomario tries his best later to find some life for Queens, but the Eagles just get revenge in this one against the Queens team that beat them earlier in the season. They ended up beating them by 13 total. Final score in this one ends up being 60-47. And, Dad, I mean, this one to me is a benchmark win for Florida Gulf Coast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, agreed. Not only, obviously, Queens was 5-0 going into that game, running really hot. And for them just to shut them down like that. Wow. What a performance. And that's what their strength, right? They played to their strength in my thinking, right? Florida Gulf Coast did.
Yes.
Which is strong, powerful defense, and really just kind of took the tone to them. So
yeah, that's what's going to carry this team through the whole entire season here is their deep. We've been saying it since the start of the year because we were talking about how they were struggling early in the year, but they weren't losing by that much. There were multiple games that were one-possession games, 1 or 2 possessions. So this team seems to have finally, it seems like 1 or 2 mistakes, you get a win instead, and that team has clicked it now. So I think this team's going to be poised to push for that number 1 spot for a large majority of the rest of the regular season here.
Yeah, and you mentioned, too, having Kelvin back is a big deal, right? He was out earlier in the year, so getting him back, yes. And I think he's going full go right now.
Yeah, early season tournament time. That's when he went out. He went out during their early season tournament, I believe against Omaha is when he went out. So, yeah, that was a tough loss for a couple weeks that they had him out, and then came back strong, and they're obviously firing on full cylinders now. For Queens, yeah. Too, I think they were on a 5-game win streak before this.
Right.
And obviously that gets shut down here versus FGCU, but I don't think this team's done competing. Like we talked about in our rankings for where we thought they were going to finish at the end of the year, that Queens was gonna a lot better than expected first off, and then they were gonna peter out at some point, but I don't think it's still that time yet. I think it's just kind of like a slap on the wrist. You lost the game, time to wake up and get back after it if you want to be that number 1 team.
Oh yeah, I mean every game the matchups could dictate what's going to happen. It'd be balanced, and then you counter it the next game with a different lineup, a different approach. Right, the next day they could have competed against each other, and the result could have been a 13-point win the other direction. So, yeah, I don't look at that as now. Oh, there they go, they're done. It's on to the next game. You move on, right. Next play, next game. I think, and I wouldn't expect anything different from this team. They seem to be knowing what they are at this point in the season. I think is what I see out of Queens. Mm-hmm. They'll be cranking. Yeah, that'd be my guess.
Yeah, and before we move on from Queens as a whole, for right now, is we want to show this Nasir man dunk. So this was not in the FGCU game. This was in the game where they won against Stetson earlier in the week. But just check this out. It made the ESPN's top 10.
Number 3, Queens University taking on Stetson. Queens with the steal. Nasir man, yes! Slams it with authority over the defender. Yes, you the man. Rising up, throwing it down. Number 3, Queens University taking on Stetson.
So that was quite a fancy dunk by the guard there against the big man. So I just wanted to show that off because that was a legit dunk. So let's get into now. We'll talk about UNA versus UNF. This game, Dad, was really important for UNA, who had just lost a game previously before that. So let's get right into it here on this. UNF's Jalen Smith, a team-high 22, drops in 3 for the opener. UNA claws at it, though. The Ospreys 8-point lead. Dante Bacchus gets the bucket there. They had a perfect 9 for 9 on the night. North Florida holds strong. That's Josiah Miles from the 4-3. He takes a lot of them, makes a lot of them. North Alabama, though, look at the ball movement here. It's 4 set of hands touching it. Tate Fields to Kanan Jefferson finally for the 3. Fields a near triple-double, 16 points, 13 boards, 8 assists in this one. The Ospreys would try to fight and stay in this one, but they go down 17. They end up losing by 6, final 90-84. So that one, to me, Dad, was the kind of like the for me the definite moment where I'm like, all right, North Florida is not competing officially for a top spot in this conference anymore. I just don't think it's happening. They're not the same team, or maybe people have realized what kind of team they are since the South Carolina upset and the Georgia Tech upset. Like, I think they've figured out how to defend against this team. They figured out, obviously, how to score against this team. Everyone knows how to score against this team.
Yeah. Like you said, to me, their offense is one-dimensional. I think early in the year we even saw that. Not that we have to take credit for that. Others have seen it too, but you saw that they rely on the threes. They were great at three-point shots. They are a very talented offensive group, but their style of play is defendable, is what we're learning, right? And again, like you said, that we've talked about over and over again, their deficiencies on a defensive end don't help. They put so much pressure on their offense with how poor they play defense. I thought it was interesting in this game too, real quick, was that the Lions only played 7 players this game. They usually go about 9 or 10 deep. They only played 7. So I don't know if maybe from the Jacksonville loss, they saw something in the film, or even just the matchups at all. I don't know the details on that, but I just thought that was an interesting fact that they only played.
Right, could have been just like, hey, like these guys played against Jacksonville, so these are the guys that are gonna play. Like,
right, exactly.
We're not taking any second effort out there.
Yep, right, exactly. Only 6 turnovers for the Lions in this one too. They kind of got it back to the normal there after the Jacksonville game.
Yeah, I see this team. I mean, this team's going to still be very, very, very competitive, despite having maybe what we didn't expect to be an ideal start to their conference play. Now let's take a look at the rest of Saturday's games here. EKU responded to that overtime loss that we talked about earlier with a very narrow 3-point victory over the Bellarmine Knights, which 4 guys did have double figures for the Colonels. George Kimball led the charge, but Billy Smith, he had a team-high 20 on the other side, and for a Bellarmine team that hasn't won a game yet this year in ASUN play, that's scary for me for Eastern Kentucky after having an overtime loss to a mediocre team so far, but also due to injuries, is why Austin Peay is, I would consider them mediocre, but then only beating Bellarmine by 3. That's scary for me. How about you, Dad?
Yeah, well, and we've talked about Eastern Kentucky's shooting woes, which is, I think, is the main reason why they're not able to extend out and put teams away. They're clearly a talented group, well coached by AW, but they're missing that element so far this year still of shooting. But I thought it was a good sign. On the other hand, I thought it was a good sign on the Bellarmine side. We've been seeing that they'll stay competitive midway through a game at halftime, but then they'll just fall apart in the second half, or teams will run away from them. So it was good to see them stay with, if flip it on the other side of the coin. Good for them to see that. I also wanted to highlight from Saturday's play the Lipscomb thrashing Austin Peay 88-60. It was 88-60, right? 148 points, only 4 points on fast break action. That's pretty crazy. I think that shows Lipscomb's ability to hold the play the way they dictate really the play they wanted. 12 turnovers by Lipscomb, 18 points off turnovers for Austin Peay. Yet still only two points apiece on fast break. So, anyways, yeah, I thought Lipscomb really handled Peay very well in that contest. Held them, I forget the scoring, it was 31%, I think, from the floor. 42 points other than those fast break points, or those points off of turnovers. So great job by Lipscomb in a tough matchup. after an Austin Peay team had a really, really strong game there, like we already talked about earlier there. So
Yeah.
Really good effort there.
Yeah, let's take a look now at the current standings of the ASUN. So, a reminder, the top 10 teams are the teams that will play in the ASUN tournament come tournament time. Still got a couple months away from that. But currently, Central Arkansas and the first-year members, the West Georgia Wolves, are tied for the final spot. What's the biggest shocker for you, Dad, here this early in conference play?
I'm going with Jacksonville. Like we talked about them earlier with the North Alabama victory, upset victory at home, small upset. 5-1 on conference play so far this year. And what I would say for me, it's a shocker because going into the conference play, I saw a team that was struggling to score offensively in a consistent fashion. Robert McRae had several really good games, but he had several really off games as well. And they weren't able to pick up the slack on that from an offensive perspective. So you see a lot of highs and lows.
They were just playing sloppy, I felt like. A lot of turnovers.
Yeah, and then the biggest thing was that statistically was the turnovers, leading the conference in turnovers. And like you said, exactly, sloppy kind of play. Don't really have a true point guard, which probably doesn't hurts some of that perspective. But they've really kicked it into gear. The other wins, they also smashed Austin Peay earlier in the first game of conference play, a win against Eastern Kentucky. McRae, of course, is getting all the headlines with all the talent he has, but there's players like Stephon Payne, back-to-back double-doubles for him. They're coming to play. Zimi's playing really well.
He's a big reason why they're able to be such a good rebound. Like we talked about it going into the season about how good of a rebounding team this team is going to be. Sheldon Payne III is a big reason for that. Or Stephen. Is it Stephen? Stephen? I said Sheldon. Stephen Payne.
Stephon Payne, right. Exactly. And so the team's leading second in the conference in block shots. Stephon Payne had 4 against North Alabama. It was 9 for the team in that game. I forgot to mention that earlier. But they're second in the conference in that, second in offensive rebounding. But I like this stat about them that I think is really impressive. They're third in the conference in 3-point field goal percentage. I didn't realize they were shooting the ball that well from deep. So it's not any one individual, right? They kind of all do that,
right,
player-wide. So that's probably another element of what they have coming. We got to watch the turnovers. So we can't stop saying that enough. Turnovers hurt a lot. They're making it with grit, so good for them. That's my big surprise. I'm impressed with their play so far.
Well, and I love what you said there, make it with grit, because so we're talking about conference play a little bit, just because as you can see that big line in the middle, that's the cutoff point. Jacksonville was the last place team in conference play last year, and they upset Eastern Kentucky, first seed, due to their grit. It was a big, and Robert McRae had a lot of free throw attempts in that game, and there was one other guy too from Jacksonville that had a lot. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but McRae had a lot too, and that was a huge reason why they ended up winning that game, just because they played gritty style of offense, and they weren't that special defensively last year too in that game. It was just they were working hard, outworking the other teams, and I think they ended up going on to win one more game too.
Right, I think it's some of Jordan Mincy's personality coming out too in the style of play. Right, that seems to be his motive. You hear him talk, he's kind of get that gritty in life, even too. I think for him, so very, very good. Hope they can keep it on a roll.
Yeah, we're pulling for them for sure. Let's move forward though into the rest of the week here. Let me just get that pulled up. So we got pulled up now. So Thursday's palette, Dad. You want to start us off?
Exactly. Yeah, we got games Thursday and Saturday, like we had last week for conference play. The game I'm looking forward to is North Florida at Queens on Thursday. Queens just took their first conference loss, like we were talking about. So how are they going to respond to that action? And North Florida, other than the North Alabama loss, they were kind of hit a low point there. Right, Coach Driscoll kind of right in front of the camera said, "Hey boys, you guys got to come together and figure this out." They responded with two wins, lost a close one North Alabama. So I think maybe they've righted the ship here, going to Charlotte to face Queens. So we'll see how that plays out. I think the 3-point action is going to dictate the play. Queens is They are their lead. Well, we know the Ospreys lead the conference in 3-point field goal shots and percentage, but Queens, who are second in defending the three, right? That's a great matchup right there. Defending the three and shooting the threes. How's that going to play out?
That was going to be what I'm looking forward to seeing in this game. Is I want to see, especially for an aspect of judging how Queens is really going to finish in the regular season. I think it's going to be big to see how they defend that absolute deadly 3-point shot that North Florida has had for years.
Should we set it over under on how many threes that we think the Ospreys are going to get off? I'm going to go
30.
35.
30. I'm going 30.
30?
Yeah,
okay,
give us your over under down below. Which one? What's that number down below? Swoop Nation, step up. Let us know how many 3-point attempts your team is going to take on Thursday. For me, I'm most excited for this Lipscomb or North Alabama game. I think Lipscomb really has a chance to kind of add to that resume that confirms that they're an unprecedented number one team, like we thought they were in preseason for the conference. Mainly because they're on the road here, and then North Alabama just haven't. They split last week, lost. Maybe shouldn't have lost the game that they did lose, and then they obviously pulled off a 6-point victory against UNF. They let UNF climb back into it after holding a big lead. So I really want to see how those two teams respond to the last week that they had. Lipscomb's coming off a 2-0 week. So just, as I mentioned, another resume builder for them. Let's go into Saturday now, Dad. What's going on Saturday?
Saturday, I thought you should check out the North Florida West Georgia game. We don't talk about West Georgia that much. Obviously, we do North Florida. We just talked about them a little bit there. Going to hit them again. To me, there's a suspicion here in my mind in Carrollton, the games in Carrollton at home of West Georgia, that the Wolves are going to give it a good run here. I like the way they play kind of a balanced, take what you get, what you're given kind of offense. Obviously, Sheldon Williams-Dryden, he's dominant inside force, really finishes well, 19.1 points per game on average. But they have 6 players in fold, counting him, that average 7 or more. So it's not just him. They can score.
Is that 19.1? Is that still leading the league?
What's that?
Is that still leading the league, the 19.1? I don't think it would be. I think it's got to be top 3 at least, though.
Not sure. Actually, I don't know the answer to that one. So, anyways, yeah, that
I'll
was
work
my
on
choice.
that while you keep going here. Keep going. Sorry,
yeah.
Keep going here.
Yeah. So, no, again, as we talked about, North Florida's, they've been struggling a bit back and forth. A couple nice wins, but then we've highlighted their deficiencies here. So, big test for them. I don't know. I'm just curious to see how the reaction is going to be in that one. What could be a kind of an odd, upsetty kind of scenario for me.
Yes, and to confirm with you, he's got 17.2 according to Real GM. That'll probably be different according to SportsReference.com, but that is 4th in the entire conference. 3rd, guess you want to here. Let's have some fun for a second here. We're gonna have an impromptu game that we're gonna go with. So I have this stat sheet pulled up in front of me, Dad, and
I'm on the spot.
You have to guess the top 3 players that are leading the league in points per game.
I'm gonna go Robert McRae.
He is 6th.
Oh, because of those. Well, we mentioned earlier he's had some down games. So much for that one. Oh, wait. Well, number 1 is Jacob Ognjenovic from Lipscomb, or he'll be in the top 3.
Yeah. Jacob Ognjenovic is the top scorer.
Butchered the name.
Yeah, that's okay. He's got a weird name. But yes, so 18.9 points per game, nearly 19 points per game is what Ognjenovic is scoring at currently. And he's been up there. Mm. So another one is someone that was already mentioned earlier in this podcast. And he does a lot for his team.
Oh, Jakari Lane? I don't think he scores enough.
That is a good guess. He is 1 behind Robert McRae at 7. With 15.9 points per game.
Man. Oh, well, how about Leo Colomario?
No, Leo Colomario is not. Queens is too balanced of an offense for that.
Yeah.
Colomario's 15th at 12.8.
Okay, I'm striking out all over the place here. I was going to be surprised.
One player is a guy. Oh,
Lane Taylor.
okay, okay. He is. Where do you think he's at? What number?
3.
3. You are correct. He is at
Woo!
17.6 points per game,
All right.
leading freshman scorer in all of college basketball. Oh, not college basketball. College ASUN basketball.
ASUN college basketball, right?
um,
Oh, we're on a blank on number 2. Oh, how about na, 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 na. I am going to say, uh, sorry, I'm trying to. I'm not looking up at him. How about George Kimball,
yeah,
Eastern Kentucky?
yeah. I
That's
thought you were
Eastern
going to say
Kentucky.
Tay Blanton, who's number 5 at 16.5 per game. But George
Oh,
Kimball III is second in the league in points, only 3 points per game, or 0.3 points per game behind of Ognaxovich. George
yeah,
Kimball
he's more
III,
of their finisher scorer
18.6.
for sure. If you watch him play,
Yeah,
he's more the yeah.
yeah. Tay Blanton can definitely handle the ball. Let's get into what I'm getting for Saturday's game now, though. I'm
Yes.
very excited for, and I'm glad we just had that guessing game because we were talking about Tay Blanton and George Kimball III here. I'm really excited to see what EKU does. I mentioned that they scared me. I just predicted this team to finish number 1 in the conference. So, so this team for me needs to have a big win over Florida Gulf Coast, who, as we talked about, is solidifying themselves as a definite number 1 seed contender.
Yeah.
So for EKU, I need them to have a good shooting night against a great defense. And honestly, I think it can be done because they're at home. That home crowd with the new renovations that have been done to that
Yeah.
building, and since they've been in there, they've looked like a different team in that building since they've got there.
Nice.
So that's why I'm excited for that one. I think it might be an unexpected upset that people.
It'll be a fun game. Exactly. That's game's at 4 o'clock, by the way, on Saturday afternoon. 4 o'clock Eastern time. Excuse me.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yep. They'll
There's
all
only
be
one.
on ESPN
Well, only
Plus.
one primetime game. The Austin P North Alabama game is at 7 p.m. Saturday night.
Yep.
So
Nice. All right. So what do you got for Acorn's Attic for us this week, Dad?
So I wanted to talk a little bit about. So I was thinking about watching games and coaching and everything. Thinking about an element of really good defense, and we've seen it several times at the end of the games, even in the middle of games, and that is chaos. So defense is about creating chaos. But if you watch the games, but behind any chaos is order. There's specific rules around defenses, whether it's a half court, a double team on the ball, like Jacksonville did to Jakari Lane with North Alabama the other night. There's rules around you create chaos with that double team. Where's the next ball going? So everybody has an idea about what the next move is defensively, just like an offensive play. And or even on a press, right? You're trying to drive the ball to the middle. You're trying to drive the ball to a corner for a trap. There's rules around the chaos you're trying to create on the floor. So it just made me think about that, how that relates to, so that finding the right balance of order and chaos creates a good defense where you can be successful. And I think the same thing applies in life. Is you have order and you have chaos that are constantly at play with each other, and finding the right balance of order and chaos can often you may adjust things for various types of activities. Like for me, coaching, I get organized. I do stats review ahead of games, so I'm very ordered and organized with what I see a mismatches might be. But I don't go into a game thinking I'm going to specifically exploit this 17 times or 8 times or anything like that. I kind of let the game flow around that order that I've created for myself, and that works in a basketball environment for my way of coaching. My home life, though, I don't do that at all. I'm very organized and very regimented with finances and my clothes. Right, my closet's all organized.
Yeah, you're all proud
now.
of the fact that you color coordinated your closet.
It's a little bit crazy, but I did it. Yep. And even food, like I'm at my best. I feel most comfortable and happy from a food perspective when we've organized a menu for the week. We go buy food for the week, and then and all those elements for me, those are daily routine kind of things. Chaos is going to happen. It's going to appear somehow, right? Something's going to break. Someone's going to call and say, "Hey, I want to go out tonight." But if I have my schedule organized and my routine items organized and ordered, I can adapt to those chaoses when they come along much better, as opposed to always living in that chaos. So there's a couple examples of where, for me, what I've learned through trial and error, of course, like most things in life. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with something, and you maybe take a look at that, where are you operating in order versus chaos, and you maybe make a tweak in that sense.
Well, yeah.
To try to get it in line.
Yeah, it's almost like having like organized chaos. You know what I mean? Like it's like having like even I'm thinking it from both a basketball and you're talking about knowing where the ball is going to be kicked to and stuff like that after maybe a double team or something like that. But like it's organizing something. You know it's going to be chaotic, so having organization plan and set, so that way when
Yes.
it does go awry, you at least have ideas on how you can solve solutions, or even like having, like we just did this new thing where I sat down with you, Dad, and I never created like a solid hard schedule for myself, and we did that
Right.
with Mom as well. Actually sitting in these very seats that we're sitting right now, and but like just having that organization of, okay, this is what my plan is, and then knowing that it probably won't go that way anyways, because life is chaotic and it will be random anyways.
Yes.
But then kind of like to reestablish what mode you should get back into. That's why it's kind of nice to have that organized chaos, as I'm calling
That's
it.
right. Yeah, life is chaos. There's no doubt about it. But some people operate in certain types of things more chaotically and better, and people find it easier to be more organized. You and I talked about even just prepping for our show here, how you work better in a kind of not a last minute, but when you're pressed for I got to make action. That's when you're most creative. I'm more creative when I plan stuff out and kind of build it into it when it comes to our prep time. So we're on different schedules with that. I mean, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with either one. It's just observing it, being aware of it, and it's okay, obviously, that we have different schedules but understanding it and knowing it, I think, is really the big thing.
Yeah.
And if you're struggling with something, take a look at this. Hey, do I have too much? How can I bring more chaos into this? Or how can I bring more order into this item, whatever that item might be, if you're struggling with something. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a fantastic Acorns Attic. Good life message and basketball message to have. And that's going to do it for this episode of Accurate Basketball. We look forward to seeing you next time. For Mark Acker, I'm Curtis D. Acker. Take care.